You can also use Google or Facebook to do your CPA marketing, and for most people these will still be the best choices. Of course, Google AdWords is a PPC advertising platform and you'll still have to pay per click. However, the fact that you can track your CPA means that you can ensure that you're still making conversions and you can see how much you're paying for them. While this doesn't protect you as much from an unsuccessful ad, you can quickly make changes to ensure that you start making money. What's more, Google has some powerful tools such as automatic bidding that ensures that your ad will always be getting you the best rates for CPA. This way you can get Google to literally do your bidding. At the same time, you'll be working with a much larger and much more respected publisher. You'll be seen by infinitely more potential customers and you'll be able to closely control how your advert looks. So how do you go about using CPA with Google and what does it look like? To do this, you will go to set up a Google ad as normal and then select Automated CPC when setting up the campaign. When you create a Google ad, you basically tell Google how much you're willing to pay for each click. This then also dictates how regularly your ad will be shown to Google's visitors, and the more you're willing to pay, the more often your advert will be displayed instead of other competing ads. You can also set a budget, which is the maximum amount you're willing to pay, so that you don't need to worry about paying more than you can afford. With automated bidding, you're essentially telling Google to tweak how much you pay per click in order to gain you the maximum number of clicks. Or, in our case, we're going to tell Google to tweak the bidding automatically to get us the very best conversion rates. To do this, you'll need to set up a Google Analytics account, and then you'll need to set up a goal. A goal is basically a page on your website which can be the thank you page after a purchase or the email sign-up page. When your visitor reaches that page, this will be considered a conversion. Now select Enable Enhanced CPC and then the Focus on Conversions box. Now you'll be telling Google to automatically tweak your advert in order to optimize the cost per acquisition. Google gives you the option to look at your ROAS, which is the return on ad spending. This basically tells you how much you're earning back for the amount you're spending on your adverts, again letting you very closely control your CPA. Note that in order to get this information, you'll need to make 30 conversions in 30 days in order to provide Google with the right amount of data. While you aren't actually paying based on CPA with Google, the fact that you can accurately track it means that you're essentially still able to approach AdWords as you would do a CPA platform. In doing so, you can benefit from a number of advantages that are unique to Google AdWords and that have made this arguably the most popular advertising platform on the internet. Google AdWords, of course, shows adverts on the SERPs. These are the search engine results pages, and to do this you can choose to target any given search term. A search term is something along the lines of buy hats online or something similar that people are likely to search for when they're looking for your product. This is a very smart way of advertising, of course, because it means you'll be targeting people who are interested in your products and who are actively looking to buy said products at the time that they see your ad. And you can see some Google AdWords ads here. Google AdWords also comes with a huge variety of other awesome features that let advertisers profit even more. For instance, AdWords gives you access to remarketing that allows you to target people who have previously been to your site and shown an interest in your products. AdWords also lets you target people based on location to ensure that they are able to hire your services if they are locally based, and it lets you use negative keywords in order to exclude some search terms from showing your website. By combining all of these features with CPA, Google gives you a very flexible way to control your advertising campaign and to see how this directly impacts on your percentage of conversions. Facebook also offers a CPA option that works differently from Google or the likes of Max Bounty. Like Max Bounty or Ascend Media though, Facebook only charges you for successful actions rather than for each click. Of course, Facebook has a big advantage over Max Bounty or Ascend Media in terms of the sheer amount of people you can reach, the control you have over the ads, and the reputation of the publisher. But before you get too excited and assume that Facebook is the perfect solution to all your CPA worries, bear in mind that Facebook is rather specific about what it considers to be an action. In other words, you can't use Facebook to track actual purchases of your product, generally, nor can you use it to track the number of people who sign up to your mailing list. Yeah, really. Instead, Facebook lets you choose from a number of goals for your adverts, which include Canvas app installs, mobile app installs, off-site link clicks, offer claims, and page likes. Now, the savvy among you may have noticed that CPA for off-site link clicks is basically just, well, CPC, so that's not all that exciting. But if you are thinking of using AdSend Media, for instance, to get charged on a per installation basis, then immediately you can see that Facebook is just as capable a tool for doing that, which will actually help you reach a much broader audience. And here's an exciting bit of news. You can actually use Facebook's CPA for paid apps. That means, theoretically, you can have a direct profit for every click and essentially pay Facebook on a commission basis. There are a few problems with this strategy though. For starters, Facebook itself is free, which makes it a relatively poor place to try and find customers willing to pay for apps. At the same time, the cost of the app isn't displayed, which is intended to increase the CTR for free apps. And finally, it's a cold sale despite being targeted. Still, it's certainly something worth trying out. Also interesting to note, of course, is the fact that you can use offer claims through Facebook, which is another direct form of CPA. This way, you get paid when someone chooses to redeem a special offer. This means you can run a 20% off sale for your product or service and then get direct CPA through Facebook. Potentially, this method could be highly lucrative. And finally, if you look at CPA for page likes, this can be considered somewhat similar to CPL, cost per lead. Getting a page like gives you a lead in a sense that you can try to convert your page likes to emails. Note though that a page like, although valuable, is not as useful as having an actual email address. Apart from anything else, when you update your Facebook page, it will only be seen by about 2% of your viewers. In order to actually get a post seen, you have to pay for a page post ad, and that means you're essentially paying to contact the list that you paid to build. Then again though, Facebook marketing gives you a lot of advantages that you only get from using a big platform with lots of powerful tools. You get highly advanced tracking and statistics that let you see a graph showing your clicks, your likes, your conversions, and so on for a particular ad. Like Google AdWords, Facebook also lets you target your users very precisely, albeit in a different way. Unlike using AdWords, you can't reach people who are actively shopping online, which is a disadvantage. On the other hand though, you will be able to target people who are a certain age, who have a particular job title, who are married, who have particular interests, etc., etc. At this point, your head may be reeling a little with all the options and all the different types of CPA marketing available. This is a very powerful tool indeed for directly creating conversions for your products, and if you get it right, it's one of the only ways to guarantee returns. But unfortunately, it's also one of the slightly more complicated forms of marketing. So now let's recap on the different options you have available to you and who each is likely to be the most useful for. First of all, you have the option of going purely CPA with something like Max Bounty, AdGate Media, AdSend Media, or CPA Lead. These charge you only for each acquisition and put your ads onto the websites of thousands of participating advertisers. On the positive side, this option means you don't pay for unsuccessful ads. At the same time, you have people actively pushing your ads because those ads are incentivized. This is also called incentive marketing, and this makes a big difference to the way that your ads get pushed. But at the same time, this type of advertising is still relatively young. The oldest platforms have only been around since the mid-2000s, and they've yet to perfect their services. To sign up as an advertiser, you're going to need to go through a lengthy process involving speaking on the phone in many cases, and even then you may be rejected. Once you're in, you'll find you don't know how well you can trust the platform or your advertisers to represent you, and you may lose some control over the way your brand is represented. The overall audience you reach will be smaller compared with using AdWords or Facebook, and you'll probably pay bigger overheads. You also need to consider scrubbing and shaving and the risk of your offer not being picked up by any publishers. This is an interesting prospect, but right now it's far from a perfect experience. Who is this right for? Well, this type of advertising seems most popular among dating sites, legal and financial services, software and app developers, and perhaps those selling digital products. For a startup willing to invest some time into this process, and with a relatively high ticket item to sell, it could be lucrative. Next we have affiliate marketing platforms. These are the likes of WSO Pro, JVZoo, and ClickBank. These allow you to sell products, largely digital, and to have a legion of marketers to help you do so for a commission. This is the ultimate in incentivized marketing, because often you'll be offering 40 to 60%, and the kinds of marketers you recruit will be full-time digital marketers that use email marketing, landing pages, PPC, even perhaps CPA, and some other strategies to really push your products. This can lead to a huge amount of sales and a truly passive income as you sleep. And if it's not successful, then it won't have cost you a single cent. But again, you have risks. For starters, affiliate marketing means giving away the biggest cut of your profits. It also means losing a lot of control over what you're selling. If you ever come by a landing page that uses aggressive sales tactics with poor spelling, then there's a good chance they were selling an affiliate product. This way, you're opening up your product to be represented by anyone, and that can do serious harm to your reputation. What's more, affiliate marketing seems to very much favor the internet marketing niche. If you have a book on how to make money from PPC, then this will probably do very well on JVZoo. If you have a book on fitness, though, it will be less popular. And if you're selling a garden fork, well, then you're just wasting your time. Finally, you have the option of Facebook or Google for your CPA. Now, neither of these are true CPA marketing in that they don't offer you the option to be charged only when someone buys your product. You'll still be paying per click for the most part, and that means that you aren't actually guaranteed ROI. Facebook and Google ads only end up in one place, the site of the respective publishers. Furthermore, because you aren't incentivizing a marketer, you find that you don't have the power of hundreds or thousands of marketers behind your product. If you used affiliate marketing or true CPA, then you might find that those marketers use Google and Facebook on your behalf even. But Facebook and Google do allow you to see precisely what your CPA is, as in how much you're being charged for each sale or lead. This is good enough, and if anything, it simply incentivizes you to work harder on your ad and your bidding strategy to ensure that you're doing this right. And with automated bidding on Google, that's already handled for you. Facebook, meanwhile, does give you the option to pay based on certain actions, and in some cases this can lead to direct profit. What's more, Facebook and Google give you a plethora of tools for targeting specific audiences and for tracking your success. They also give you complete control over the look of your ad and where it's showing, and they allow you to immediately stop the ad. Another big advantage of Google and Facebook is that they let you sign up immediately, unlike something like Max Bounty, without having to make phone calls or prove yourself. If you have a small business or an e-commerce store, then this is probably the form of CPA marketing for you. As I just touched on there, tracking your sales is very important, and I'll go into more depth about it in the next video. When you use any CPA marketing platform, it should give you some kind of tracking facility. This will give you the ability to see data and statistics for your adverts so that you can see how well they're performing. When you're paying per click, this is particularly important, so you can ensure that you're getting a good amount of ROI for your ads. On Google and Facebook, you'll be able to see your actual CPA, whereas in other platforms, you might need to set this amount yourself. Other things you'll be able to see with most of these tools include how often your ad has been viewed, and this is called impressions, and this will likely be somewhat correlated with how much you're paying per acquisition. The more advanced platforms also might let you see aggregated data. In Facebook, for instance, you can find this by clicking on Advanced Data. From here you can see the age, sex, location and more of your viewers. Also available in Facebook is something called frequency, and this basically tells you how often the same people are seeing your ad. This is an important one to keep an eye on because, of course, if the same people keep seeing your ads, they're eventually likely to have either bought your item already or they're completely uninterested in doing so. On the other hand, this might not matter so much if what you're selling is something you can sell multiple times, like a chocolate snack, for example. Other figures include CTR, which is your click-through rate, and this tells you how often people are actually clicking on your ads. So if you have a lot of impressions but you don't have many clicks, your click-through rate will be low. If nearly everyone clicks on your ads who sees them, then your CTR will be high. CTR is a particularly important stat because it is one that most closely correlates with the effectiveness of your ad. In other words, is your advert compelling enough to attract attention and then get someone to want to click? If not, ask yourself what you could do to change it. CPM, meanwhile, is cost per impression, and this tells you how much you're paying for your advert to show. Some advertising networks can actually charge per impression, but more likely this figure will be worked out based on your CPP, CTR, and impressions. As mentioned earlier, you should also be able to see a ROAS, which is return on ad spend. If you're using a strictly CPA platform or setup where you pay only for actions, then you'll ideally want to increase your impressions, your CTR and your ROAS. However, if you're paying per click, then the ideal scenario would be for your CTR to go down and your ROAS to stay the same or go up. In other words, when you're paying per click, you want to drive away clicks that aren't going to convert. You want to discriminate when bringing visitors to your site because not all of them are going to be worth any money to you. If you can decrease your CTR while keeping your ROAS the same, then that will mean that you're actually targeting your visitors more accurately, and this will cause your CPA to go down, which is a good thing because it means you're paying less per sale. I know this all sounds a bit confusing, but as long as your ROAS is going up, you can be sure you're generally improving. And if you're paying on a purely CPA basis, then as long as your clicks are going up, your ad will be performing well. You should also be able to look at your historical data for your adverts and see whether your CTR and ROAS are going up or down. At the same time, you can then correlate this with changes you might have made to your campaign, such as your bidding strategy or perhaps the ad text. Either way, this will have a direct or indirect effect on how many people are clicking on your ads, and in turn you can use this data to run tests. The idea is that you eventually evolve the adverts to perform optimally, thereby maximizing your clicks and your profits. Some sites will also allow you to run split tests. A split test basically means that you run two different versions of an advert at the same time. For example, you might have two versions of your heading text or the ad body text, and you can then see which one of these performs best. By doing that, you can make sure that every change you make is a positive change that will increase your clicks, impressions and conversions. Just make sure that you run your split tests for long enough to collect the right amount of data. If you draw premature conclusions based on just a few clicks, then you won't be able to ensure that it was the difference in the ad that was having the effect. It could just have been a coincidence. In the next video, we'll talk about creating your ad. Depending on the platform that you use, you may have to create an ad, or you might leave this in the hands of the publishers. On the sites where you do create your own ads, the CTR is going to be very much in your hands, as is the targeting for your viewers. Again though, it's worth noting that the specifics of your ad design are going to depend somewhat on your goals and the type of platform you're using. If you're paying only for conversions, then your objective is to get as many people to your site as possible, which means that you will maximize the opportunity to make sales. If you're paying per click though, that strategy would be expensive. So instead, you should be aiming to focus only on highly targeted traffic. Partly you will do this using the filtering options we've already looked at, and on Facebook that means targeting your ads based on the demographics, and on Google it means choosing the right keywords and or using negative keywords. For the ads themselves though, you want to make sure that your ad text is catering very specifically to the type of audience that you're hoping to reach. So for example, this might mean saying something like fitness ebook for $30. Notice how the price of the ebook is right in the text. That way you're able to ensure only people who might potentially be interested in buying an ebook for that much money will click. If a viewer is the kind of person who would never normally buy a digital product, they'll be put off by the ad and you won't waste your money on that visitor. If your objective is to maximize the CTR of the number of people seeing your ads, then you need to use bold statements that focus on your USPs. USPs, of course, are unique selling points, and these are the things that you're offering through your product. Is your line of t-shirts the best possible quality for the price? Then that's what you want to say. Does your app make it much easier to organize notes? Then focus on that. Another useful tip is to try and allay fears that your buyers might have. A lot of people still feel nervous when buying online because they think they're going to have to spend ages signing up, then worry whether or not the item will come in the post. Thus, phrases like quick sign up and next day delivery can be very helpful as they tell your audience that they'll be able to have the product that they like in their hands tomorrow. Full money back guarantee is another useful one for the same reason. Another option is to try and encourage people to click on your link by using curiosity. This is one of the reasons that those "one weird tip to lose body fat" adverts are so effective. You can't help but be curious as to what that one weird tip might be. Now you might try to rip off this idea with something like, "You'll never believe how much money you can save with this new strategy." Also in your arsenal is the ability to use images to try and grab attention. This is an option with most CPA networks, and it's a very important part of any advert. Moving images, colorful images, and particularly images with people in them are all very useful for attracting attention. Using attractive people is a particularly good way to do this. Make sure your image is high definition and pay for a designer if you don't have the skills yourself. This will make a big difference in helping your product or service look more professional and trustworthy, and it can help to dispel fears that you might be a scam artist. Actually though, the advert itself is only one part of the process. If you really want to be successful, then you'll need to create a landing page that is effective in converting visitors into buyers. And we'll talk about that in the next video. In this video, I want to talk about landing pages. So, what is a landing page? Essentially, it's the page you're going to be sending your visitors to, and where they can sign up to your mailing list or buy your product. This might be an e-commerce store, but more often than not you'll have created a specific sales page just to try and sell your product. You'll likely have encountered these before on your own travels around the web and may have noted some common themes. For starters, sales pages tend to be long and narrow, and they don't have any other navigational elements such as menus. The reason for this is that it A. encourages people to scroll down the page, which actually makes them feel more committed to buying, and B. prevents them from clicking away to any other parts of your site. These sites are easy enough to design, but if you want to automate the process, you can use a tool like Optimize Press, which will also help you to easily add a checkout, although of course you'll slightly increase your overheads. And you can read more about this at optimizepress.com. At the same time, you also need to think about the sales copy that you're going to put here, and you can either write this yourself or you can get someone from Upwork, which you can find here at upwork.com. This used to be called Odesk. Or from Elance, which you can find here at elance.com, to do it for you. The idea here is to make your product sound amazing and to compel the audience to buy right away. To do this, you'll likely start by using the AIDA structure. This stands for awareness, interest, desire, action, and it's that last one that you pay out for. In other words, you have to guide someone from not knowing what the product is to feeling like they really need it. A useful tip when doing this is to use a narrative structure. Use a story to make your sales page stand out. We're naturally inclined to read stories, and it's hard for us to look away without reaching the end. Another tip is to appeal to facts and figures throughout and to make yourself likable. These are both important pillars of persuasive writing. Throughout your text, always focus on your value proposition and the emotional hook. This means thinking about how your product or service will make life better for the person buying from you. Don't focus on what your product is, but on what it does and how that makes people feel. Remember, you don't sell hats, you sell warm heads. If you're selling a book on making money, then paint the picture and get your reader to imagine having their own private yacht and no debt, that sort of thing. Questions also help to engage your audience more because they make them reflect on what they're reading. Finally, when trying to secure the sale, make sure you give people a reason to buy quickly rather than going away to think about it. Now you can do this by creating scarcity, for example saying you only have a limited supply, or by applying time pressure with a limited time special offer. Some sellers will use something called a dime sale, which basically means that your product will go up every time someone buys it. And this can be very effective for driving sales, but do check on how this will impact your CPA platform and your profit margins. In the final video of this series, I'll summarize what we've learned so far, and I'll put together a CPA success formula that you can start acting on right away.